Persona 5 is quite easily one of the greatest JRPGs ever made, and like most of them, it hides a huge amount of secrets, Easter eggs and references that many people may have missed. Let's go ahead and check some of them out. One of the more prominent characters from Persona 4, Yukiko, gets a slight cameo that can be heard on the Good Morning Japan show, where she and the Amagi Inn from the previous game are briefly mentioned, as the host regards the Amagi Inn as a long-standing tradition with incredible food and relaxing hot springs. He also describes Yukiko as a beautiful young owner, remarking that it's worth the visit just to see her alone. As those who have played Persona 4 will know, the Amagi Inn was an integral part to the story, so it's nice to see it referenced in the sequel, and that life continues to be good to Yukiko. President Tanaka has been a recurring character in the series since Persona 3, and manages to make a brief appearance in Persona 5 for those that go out of their way to fulfill certain conditions. Known for his shady business deals, in this version of the game he runs an online black market that can be easily missed if you do not acquire the broken laptop in a shop near Café LeBlanc and a PC toolset from the machine parts store in Akihabara. Once you've fixed the laptop, you can now access a generous set of items that change according to the date in which you access it, and of course it's all hosted by the sleazy businessman himself. As you'll find out over the course of this video, Futaba's room is home to quite a few Easter eggs and references. If you take a look at the room, you'll be able to see what looks like a group of Power Ranger figures and posters, but these are in fact the Feathermen, who are part of a kids show within the Persona series. But it's hard not to notice the resemblance to everyone's favourite Morphin Rangers, which are themselves actually based upon something known as Super Sentai, a popular TV show in Japan, which makes for a nice reference to the Power Rangers and Super Sentai show and its counterpart within the Persona world that has been running throughout the series since its second iteration. The shopping centre known as Junes played a prominent role in the events in Persona 4, and for those with a keen ear, it's possible to see it referenced within Persona 5. Once reaching the Akihabara location of the game, one of the arcades is host to a very interesting crane machine. From here you can win a whole range of items that also reference past games in the series, but if you listen closely whilst playing, you'll be able to hear the familiar jingle of the popular Junes theme. It's likely to bring back fond memories of meeting up with Chie and Yosuke after school as you relaxed, socialized and planned your runs into the TV world, and even Nanako's annoying way of singing that goddamn jingle every time it appeared on the TV. No Persona game wouldn't be complete without a few subtle references to anime, and Persona 5 is no exception, one of the main references being that of My Neighbor Totoro. At a certain point in the game, Morgana will transform into a bus, mainly to help our heroes traverse the world. Now this is surprisingly similar to the cat bus, which also plays a prominent role within the anime of Totoro. I think it's quite easy to say that this is a subtle nod by the creators to one of the greatest anime films of all time. As with most RPGs, an absolute ton of items are usually included for the player to acquire. This is no different in Persona 5, from statistical boosts to different sets of clothes. But there is one item that will instantly be familiar to fans of a certain blue hedgehog. If you look on the TV shopping channel on September the 25th, you'll be able to acquire an item known as Sonic Socks, and upon reading the description which states socks that let one run as fast as a hedgehog, it's easy to see what they are referencing. Due to Sega buying Atlas a few years prior to the game's release, they must have been included as a nice little nod to their new corporate overlords. Just like the previous games in the series, the concept of socializing is a big part of Persona 5, and because of this there are several ways you can spend your time with friends. One of the best ways to do this has to be hitting up the movies, which is absolutely full to the brim of references to popular films. To name a few, there's a Christopher Nolan Batman knockoff known as The Cake Knight Rises, one that references one of the greatest films of all time, The Godfather, known as The Good Father, another one known as Love Possibly, which is a play on Love Actually, and finally Clean Hard, which blatantly sounds like a huge nod to the action classic Die Hard. There are many more of these little references throughout the game, which are bound to put a huge smile on your face. Throughout the game you get to visit the character of Futaba's room. Now this location is an absolute treasure trove of nods and references, with one of the more prominent ones being that of a certain psychotic robot and the company that she represents. If you look around on the floor you'll soon find a book which has a very interesting logo on its cover. That's right, it's the logo of Aperture Science, the company who play a large part in the events that take place in the video game Portal. The developers are clearly fans of Valve's cult classic, and it's nice to see a reference to this within the game. The character of Naoto was a huge part in the events of Persona 4, and for those that keep an eye out, Naoto can be heard being referenced in Persona 5. After waking up on the 29th, if you head downstairs and examine the TV, Naoto is called by name on the television show that's running on the day, and names her the original Detective Prince, before going on to mention that there is a second coming in the form of Goro. It's nice to see one of the more memorable characters from the previous game get a mention, and the fact that they fulfilled their goals. There are a load more little references like this scattered throughout the game. Takemi plays the role of your doctor throughout the events of Persona 5 and provides you and your party with a means to stay in the fight thanks to a selection of items that she supplies. During the Rank 4 Death Arcana event, she makes a phone call to a hospital and speaks to someone called Yuhara-san. As many will know, Yuhara worked as a nurse during the events of Persona 4 at the municipal hospital and represented the Devil Arcana's social link, so it's possible that this Yuhara-san that she is talking to could be none other than Yuhara from the previous game, as she is still a nurse at the end of her social link in Persona 4. For those that have completed Persona 4, you'll all know that Namatame played a key role in the events that transpired. Being the city's council secretary and married to a well-known singer, his affair with a TV announcer left his career in ruins. In Persona 5 on December the 7th, it is possible to catch a news article on the television that mentions he is running for public office as an independent newcomer, having worked his way up from a politician's secretary in Inaba. This little reference is nice to see and shows that his past exploits haven't hurt his political ambitions. This little Easter egg involves Morgana and the actor who plays her. For many years she has been the voice of the popular Pokemon character Pikachu, and Persona 5 wastes no time in letting it be known. On the first day of the adventure, when deciding who should look around the school for students who are being blackmailed, you're presented with 3 dialogue options: I'll go, Ryuji, it's up to you, and Morgana's I choose you. As many Pokemon fans will know, this matches up with the classic line from the show, Pikachu, I choose you. Obviously, Morgana's work as one of the most lovable Pokemon made an impression upon the developers, so much so this little reference made it into the game. Once again, this is another little Easter egg that involves Futaba. This time it is a callback to one of Atlus' own games known as Catherine. When visiting her room, the camera pans to the right, and those with a keen eye will notice that she must be a huge fan of the dream-induced adventure, as she has a figurine of Catherine sitting up on her shelf. And it's not the only reference the game gets as well. The protagonist will sometimes reference it in his dreams if you sleep early, as well as Sojiro providing coffee trivia, as when finishing a cup of coffee within Catherine, you would also receive trivia on it as well. Just like many other Persona games, answering questions within the classroom plays a huge part in adding to your knowledge. One question that the teacher asks you is sure to ring a bell with Dragon Ball Z fans, as it references a King Kamehameha, with one of the answers being that of a Dragon Ball. There must be some fans of the anime over at Atlus, as it's not the only reference the show receives. When visiting Futaba's room, Yusuke will rearrange the Featherman figures into a familiar pose that fans of Dragon Ball as well as Super Sentai will be familiar with, specifically the Ginyu Force pose. Throughout the duration of Persona 5, Futaba will make quite a few references to various other video games, but one of the most prominent being that of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, with her often used line of "Hey, listen." What makes this little reference even more compelling is that in the Japanese version of the game, her Phantom Thief codename is actually Navi, which as many will know is the fairy that annoyed the hell out of players with her interrupting an Ocarina of Time. There's an absolute buttload of references to popular video games within Persona 5, but one of my favourites has to be the inclusion of one of the most famous lines from the Metal Gear Solid series. Whilst negotiating with shadows, there's a chance you'll get the dialogue, "I've heard even love can bloom on the battlefield. Don't you think that is possible?" The character of Otacon from Metal Gear Solid states this to Snake during the events of the game, and it soon went on to become one of the most recognisable quotes from the series. The developers are clearly fans of Hideo Kojima's masterpiece as well. Persona 5 is home to a wide range of side activities, one of the main being that of playing a series of minigames thanks to the retro gaming machine you can purchase, known as the Famidrive. If you've been around since the 16-bit era, you'll instantly be familiar with what the game is referencing, both the Super Famicom and Sega Mega Drive, which were both the main way to play video games at home back in the day. This reference is pushed even further with some of the games that you can actually play on the Famidrive, one being named Punch-Ouch, and even going as far as to name your opponent Mike Tyson, which is a play on the Super Nintendo classic Punch-Out and Mike Tyson who starred in it. Out of the three main characters in Persona 4, Chie has to be my favourite. Her upbeat and often hilarious dialogue instantly made me gravitate to her as a character, but it was her love for all things Kung Fu that sealed the deal. In Persona 5 she gets a slight little reference. If you head down and check the TV on the 9th of December, the television presenter indirectly mentions Chie being in the police academy, and although she's not a police officer, she is described as one tough girl who knows Kung Fu. Another anime reference within the game comes from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and takes place during one of the pop quiz sections of the game during school time. The teacher will ask you what is the name of the phenomenon where the second hand looks like it stopped moving on a clock. Out of the answers, one of them is the World, which is a nod to Dio Brand's Stan, in a popular anime show who has the ability to stop time. These little pop culture references are plentiful in Persona 5, but seeing JoJo get mentioned takes it to another level. Two idols that play a role within Persona 4 get a nice little reference in Persona 5. Both Rise Kujikawa and Konami Mishita have posters for their latest music releases on the walls of the Shibuya train station. As those who have played Persona 4 will know, Konami is pushed to the forefront after Rise decides to take a break. She becomes frustrated with fans perceiving Konami's image as being less fake than hers. Seeing a visual representation of this rivalry in Persona 5 is a nice little touch. Well, that does it for today's video. Don't forget to hit subscribe to stay up to date on future videos, and as always, thanks for watching.